It happens mid-sentence.
I'm explaining a supply chain risk when Marcus cuts me off, smiles thinly, and says, Maya, we're letting you go.
The conference room goes silent.
I freeze, staring at him across the polished table. You can't handle pressure, he adds, voice calm like he's discussing the weather.
My heart pounds so hard I can feel it in my throat. Jordan, my manager, won't look at me. The board members shift uncomfortably in their leather chairs. Security appears at the door almost instantly, as if they'd been waiting outside. As I stand, legs shaking, I glance at the digital deadline clock mounted on the wall. 72 hours until the vendor presentation. The thing only I warned him about. The thing he dismissed 3 times. Marcus is still smiling as they escort me out, clipboard in hand, like I'm already forgotten. I catch one last look at the presentation slides still displayed on the screen, my slides, my data, my work. But I'm not shocked. I saw this coming weeks ago. And I already know what he doesn't. The deadline isn't just approaching. It's a bomb waiting to explode. My badge deactivates before I reach the parking lot. I try swiping it at the side door out of habit. Red light, sharp beep. Denied. My work email locks the second I pull out my phone. Even my Slack goes dark, every channel disappearing like I never existed. I sit in my car, hands gripping the steering wheel, replaying his words over and over. Can't handle pressure. After 6 years of holding this department together through crisis after crisis. After countless late nights fixing his mistakes, covering his oversights, making him look competent. My phone buzzes. A text from Sarah, one of the junior analysts. What just happened? Everyone's in shock. I don't reply. I can't find the words. Instead, I stare at the building through my windshield, and a memory hits me. The email I sent Marcus 2 weeks ago. The one outlining the exact issue that's going to blow up in 72 hours. The one he responded to with 3 words. Noted. Move on. He thinks he's untouchable. He thinks I'm disposable, just another employee to be replaced. But he has no idea what's coming. He's standing on a ticking time bomb, and I'm the only one who knows where the wires are. It started 3 weeks ago. I'd stopped correcting Marcus in meetings. Every time I spoke up, he cut me off or rephrased my idea as his own 5 minutes later. What Maya means is, he'd say, and suddenly it became his insight, his vision. The board would nod at him, scribbling notes, while I sat there feeling invisible. I learned quickly, speaking up made me difficult. Staying quiet made me dependable and collaborative. So I stopped fighting for credit. I documented everything instead. Every email, every suggestion, every warning. I kept my own records because I knew, deep down, I knew, that one day this would matter. Marcus built his reputation on my work, and I let him. Not because I was weak, but because I was patient. I was gathering evidence, building an unshakable case. I was waiting for the right moment. And now, sitting in this parking lot with my career seemingly in ruins, I realize that moment has arrived. The tower of lies he built is about to collapse. And this time, everyone will see who was really holding it up. I'll never forget the first time he stole my work. It was a logistics optimization plan I'd spent 2 months developing, working late into countless nights. I presented it in a small team meeting, excited and hopeful, my voice actually shaking with enthusiasm. Marcus nodded politely, asked a few surface-level questions, then moved on to other business. A week later, he stood in front of the entire board with my exact plan. Same structure, same data points, same conclusions, even some of my specific phrasing. He called it a strategic initiative I've been developing with such confidence that nobody questioned him. Nobody questioned it. Nobody even glanced my way for confirmation. Afterward, I approached him privately in his corner office. That was my plan, I said, voice shaking for different reasons now. He smiled that patronizing smile, patted my shoulder like I was a child, and said, Maya, this is how leadership works. I synthesize ideas from the team. You execute them. That's the difference between us. I wanted to scream. Instead, I nodded and walked away, my face burning with humiliation. That night, I started keeping a detailed log of every project I touched. Screenshots with timestamps, email threads, draft versions showing my authorship. I didn't know what I'd do with it, but I knew I needed proof. I needed an insurance policy. What I didn't know was that Marcus had been poisoning the well for months. He met with the board regularly, without me, always citing executive-level strategy sessions.
In those closed-door sessions, he painted me as someone who needed constant direction and hand-holding. Great support, not strategic, he'd say. She's brilliant with details but doesn't see the big picture. He told them I struggled under pressure, that I was too emotional during tough calls, that I needed his guidance to stay on track. None of it was true, but it didn't matter. Repetition creates reality, and he was a master manipulator. By the time I walked into that conference room today, the board already believed his version of me. They thought firing me was inevitable, maybe even merciful, saving me from a role I couldn't handle. I learned this later from Jordan, who felt guilty enough to text me the truth.
He set you up, Jordan wrote. He's been talking about you for months, making you look incapable. I should have warned you.
I'm sorry. But apologies don't undo months of strategic character assassination.
Marcus didn't just fire me.
He erased me first, carefully and methodically, so nobody would question his decision. The HR email arrives an hour later. Subject, exit protocol. It's sterile, bureaucratic, devoid of any humanity. I'm instructed to return any company property and hand over documented materials only.
No transition calls. No training sessions.
No knowledge transfer. No exceptions. We appreciate your contributions. The email reads, as if I were an intern who'd spent 3 months here, not someone who built half their critical systems from the ground up.
I follow every rule to the letter.
I compile the files I'm contractual obligated to hand over, standard reports, generic presentations, basic protocols available to anyone. But I don't include my personal notes, my detailed process documentation, my risk assessments. I don't include the detailed risk assessment I wrote on my own time, on my own laptop. And I definitely don't include the email thread where Marcus explicitly ignored my warnings about the vendor deadline. My phone buzzes constantly with desperate questions. Can you explain this?
Quick question about the vendor file. Where did you save the backup?
Maya, please, just one quick call.
I don't respond to any of them. HR said no contact with the team. So I follow their rules exactly. Let them figure it out themselves. Let them realize what they lost.
The first day without me, nothing explodes. That's what scares me most.
Meetings happen. Emails get sent. Systems keep running.
Marcus introduces my replacement, a sharp, confident woman named Rachel who came from a competitor with impressive credentials. She sounds capable in her intro email, articulate and professional. People congratulate her warmly, welcoming her to the team. For a moment, I wonder if I overestimated my importance.
Maybe I was replaceable after all.
Maybe Marcus was right about me being just support. I spend the day refreshing LinkedIn obsessively, pretending to update my profile while spiraling into self-doubt. But then, late that evening, Sarah texts me.
Rachel asked about the vendor dependencies. Nobody knows what that means. People are starting to panic.
My pulse quickens. The vendor dependencies, the exact issue I flagged in that ignored email. The one Marcus dismissed as overthinking and catastrophizing. I don't reply to Sarah, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. But I feel a flicker of something I haven't felt in weeks. Vindication.
It's starting. The cracks are beginning to show. They just don't know it yet. They think they have time.
They are wrong.
Small things start going wrong.
A vendor delays a response, not unusual, but it's the wrong vendor at the wrong time. A critical decision stalls in approval limbo because nobody knows the escalation protocol. Someone emails an outdated version of a critical plan, not realizing there were 3 subsequent revisions. Each issue is fixable individually, just a minor inconvenience. But collectively, they are symptoms of a deeper problem. Nobody understands why things were done the way they were. I built our processes with intention, layering safeguards and dependencies that made sense only if you understood the full system architecture.
Marcus never bothered to learn the underlying logic.
He just trusted it worked, like magic. Rachel is smart, maybe even smarter than me in some ways, but she's working blind. She doesn't know which files matter and which are outdated legacy documents.
She doesn't know why certain vendors are prioritized or what the historical context is.
She doesn't know the unwritten rules, the unofficial protocols that keep everything running smoothly. By day 3, Sarah texts again. They are panicking.
Marcus is in emergency meetings.
Deadlines in 60 hours.
I stare at my phone, doing the math. 60 hours. They still think they have time.
They still think this is fixable. I remember sitting in Marcus's office 6 weeks ago, trying to explain the dependency. The afternoon sun was streaming through his floor-to-ceiling windows. The vendor contract has a specific clause, I said, pulling up the document on my laptop. If we don't submit the compliance report by the deadline, the entire agreement defaults to penalty rates. It'll cost us millions in additional fees. He waved me off without even looking at the screen. Maya, you worry too much.
We've worked with them for years.
They are not going to enforce some technicality over paperwork.
I pushed back, my voice getting firmer. It's not a technicality.
It's right here in Section 12. I highlighted it.
See?
He sighed, glancing at his expensive watch. I trust your diligence, Maya, I really do.
But let's not create problems where there aren't any.
We'll handle it when the time comes. I left his office feeling dismissed, patronized, but I didn't stop. I documented the conversation in an email sent at 4:47 p.m. I saved the contract clause with my annotations in 3 separate locations. I even drafted the compliance report myself on my personal time, just in case someone eventually listened.
Then I filed everything in my personal drive. Not the company's shared system. Mine.
Because I knew one day, probably soon, they'd need it desperately.
Rachel is drowning.
I hear it through Sarah, who's trying to help but doesn't have the full picture either. They are asking Rachel to explain decisions she didn't make, justify processes she didn't design, and fix problems she doesn't fully understand. She's capable, truly capable, but she wasn't given time to transition properly. Marcus threw her into the deep end and expected her to swim, assuming the water was shallow.
During a team call, someone asks about the compliance report.
Rachel hesitates, her voice uncertain for the first time.
I'm still locating that file, she says. Give me a few more hours. But there is no file. Not in the shared drive. Not in the archives. Not in any of the backup systems.
Because I wrote it at home, on my time, on my own laptop, knowing Marcus would never approve it being submitted. He called it unnecessary paperwork and bureaucratic nonsense. Now it's the only thing that can save them from financial disaster. And they have 48 hours to figure that out. Sarah texts, Marcus is getting tense.
He snapped at Rachel in front of everyone today.
She looked like she wanted to cry.
I don't reply. But I can't help picturing his face right now. The realization slowly dawning. The panic setting in. This isn't going away. This is real. Marcus calls an emergency board meeting.
Sarah tells me the details, whispering into her phone from a bathroom stall. He's presenting the plan to the board, assuring them everything is on track for the deadline. He uses my old slides, the ones I built months ago for a different presentation.
Same data.
Same projections.
Same confident delivery.
He speaks with authority, the way he always does, as if he personally crafted every word and number. A board member asks a pointed question. What's the contingency if the vendor enforces the penalty clause? Silence fills the room. Marcus fumbles with his notes. We have safeguards in place, he says vaguely, his voice slightly less confident. The board member presses harder. What safeguards, specifically?
More silence. You could hear a pin drop.
Another board member flips through the presentation slides Marcus is showing. This doesn't mention vendor penalties at all. Where's the risk assessment? Marcus shifts uncomfortably in his chair. He promises to follow up with details after the meeting. But everyone in that room can feel it. Something's wrong. Very wrong. After the meeting, Sarah texts. He looked scared.
I've never seen him like that.
His hands were actually shaking.
I close my phone and stare at the ceiling. 36 hours left. The countdown continues.
The clock is ticking, and everyone feels it. Meetings run long into the evening. Emails get sharper, more desperate in tone. Marcus starts snapping at people, his carefully maintained calm facade cracking under pressure. He blames the delay on Rachel, saying she should have been faster onboarding, more proactive in asking questions. He blames the team for not escalating issues sooner, for not being more resourceful.
He blames everyone but himself.
Sarah tells me Rachel actually found a workaround, a temporary solution that might buy them time. Some loophole in a different clause that could potentially circumvent the main requirement. For a moment, the office breathes easier. You can almost hear the collective sigh of relief. Marcus even smirks during a hallway conversation, saying to Jordan, "See?
We didn't need Maya after all. Just needed fresh perspective. But I know something they don't."
The workaround they found violates a secondary clause in the vendor contract. It's buried in an addendum added 3 years ago during a contract renewal. I flagged it months ago in my documentation. If they proceed with this solution, they'll trigger an even bigger penalty, double the original amount.
They just don't know it yet. 24 hours left.
I sit on my couch, holding my phone, wondering if I should warn them. Then I remember Marcus's face when he fired me.
His smile. His certainty. I put the phone down.
I can't sleep. It's 3 a.m, and I'm staring at the ceiling, running through scenarios in my head. Part of me wants to watch Marcus fail spectacularly.
He deserves it after everything he did.
But another part of me remembers the team. Sarah, the junior analysts, even Rachel, who's just trying to do her job. They didn't fire me. They are just caught in the blast radius of Marcus's ego and incompetence. I think about the vendor, too.
If this falls apart, it'll hurt them.
It'll hurt our clients who depend on those vendor services. It'll hurt people who had nothing to do with Marcus's manipulation and lies.
My phone sits on the nightstand, silent in the darkness.
I could send an email.
Anonymous.
Untraceable. Just enough to point them in the right direction, to save them from the worst outcome. But would they even listen to an anonymous warning? Marcus already decided I'm the problem, the weak link. Anything I say, even anonymously, might be dismissed as sabotage from a disgruntled former employee. So I lie there, paralyzed by indecision, watching the red numbers on my alarm clock change. As the hours tick away, bringing the deadline closer and closer. By morning, the deadline will be here. And whatever happens next, whatever consequences unfold, I'll have to live with my choice, or my silence. Deadline day.
The meeting starts at 9 sharp.
I imagine them in the conference room. Marcus at the head of the table, trying to project confidence, Rachel beside him looking exhausted, the board watching closely with growing concern. The vendor joins remotely, their legal team on standby, which should have been the first warning sign. Marcus opens with confidence, presenting the final plan with his usual charisma. Then the questions start. Simple questions that should have simple answers. Where's the compliance documentation? Can you confirm the penalty waiver was filed? What about the addendum clause from the 2023 renewal? One by one, the gaps become obvious, gaping holes in what should be a solid plan.
Timelines don't align. Approvals conflict.
The workaround they implemented directly violates a vendor term nobody remembered existed.
Marcus tries to deflect, his voice getting defensive.
But the vendor's legal counsel cuts him off mid-sentence.
This was explicitly outlined in our contract. We sent 3 reminders over the past month.
You are contractual obligated to submit compliance documentation 72 hours ago.
Silence spreads across the room. Heavy. Suffocating.
Someone asks, who was responsible for this?
Every path leads back to Marcus. Every decision. Every ignored warning.
The vendor terminates the call.
The room sits in stunned silence.
Sarah texts me, it's over.
Everything just fell apart.
The vendor's threatening to sue.
Marcus tries to salvage it.
He tells the board this was a miscommunication, that the transition was rushed, that my sudden departure left critical gaps in the team's knowledge. He doesn't say my name, but everyone knows who he means. She didn't prepare the team properly, he says, his voice taking on that familiar patronizing tone. She left critical information undocumented. This is a failure of knowledge transfer. It's a smooth lie, delivered with just enough conviction to sound believable, to shift blame away from himself.
For a moment, it seems like it might work. A few board members nod slowly. But then a board member speaks up.
The oldest one, a woman who's been silent until now. Can we see the documentation trail? Marcus hesitates, his confidence flickering. What do you mean?
The emails. The approvals. The compliance reports. The warnings.
Let's review what was actually done and by whom.
Marcus's face goes pale. I'll need to pull those files.
Give me a few minutes.
The board member leans forward. Pull them now.
We'll wait. 10 minutes later, they are staring at the truth projected on the screen.
My emails. My warnings dated weeks and months ago. My compliance draft. All ignored.
All dismissed with responses like noted and let's discuss later. Marcus's justifications crumble in real time. Someone says quietly, she tried to prevent this. Multiple times. The room shifts. The narrative breaks. And Marcus realizes he's trapped in a truth he can't escape.
A board member asks to see more.
They request approval chains, strategy documents, project timelines, quarterly reports. As they dig deeper, pulling up file after file, a disturbing pattern emerges. Every major initiative Marcus claimed as his own originated from my drafts.
My structure. My analysis. My exact words. He didn't create anything original.
He repackaged my work and presented it as leadership, as vision. The board members exchange glances, their expressions shifting from confusion to disbelief to anger. Someone pulls up an old presentation Marcus gave 6 months ago, one the board praised him for extensively. They compare it to an email I sent 3 weeks prior to that presentation.
Identical. Word for word. Even the formatting is the same.
Another board member notices that Marcus's strategic vision document was just my quarterly report, reformatted with his name on it. The evidence piles up, undeniable and damning. Document after document showing the same pattern. Finally, someone says what everyone's thinking: he's been taking credit for her work the entire time.
Not just once. Systematically. For months. The silence that follows is deafening.
Marcus sits frozen, unable to defend himself, his face drained of color.
Because there's no defense.
The truth is sitting on the screen in front of them, in black and white. And it's destroying him piece by piece.
My phone rings. Unknown number.
I almost don't answer, but curiosity wins. Maya.
It's Marcus.
His voice is different, smaller, uncertain. We need to talk.
I don't say anything. He clears his throat.
The board wants to meet with you. They are asking questions. I need your help.
The audacity.
The sheer audacity. You fired me, I say quietly. I know, and look, things got out of hand.
But we can fix this. You understand the systems better than anyone.
If you come back, why would I help you?
Silence.
Then, softer, because it's not just me. The whole company's at risk.
He's right, but I don't owe him anything.
I'll think about it, I say, and hang up. Later, Sarah calls. The board wants to meet with you directly. They said it's urgent.
I stare out the window, watching the city lights blink in the distance. This is it. The moment I've been circling since the day he fired me.
I agree to meet. Not at the office, at a neutral location, a quiet conference room downtown. The board sends 3 representatives. They are polite, apologetic even. We didn't realize the extent of Marcus's misrepresentation, one says. We relied on his reporting, and clearly, that was a mistake.
They ask me to walk them through everything. So I do.
I explain the vendor contract, the compliance requirements, the risks I flagged. I show them my documentation, the emails Marcus ignored, the reports he never read, the systems I built from scratch.
I don't exaggerate. I don't embellish. I just tell the truth.
When I finish, one of them says, "Why didn't you escalate this?"
I meet their eyes. I did. Multiple times. He told me I was overthinking. He told the board I wasn't strategic.
So I documented everything and waited.
They exchange glances. Slowly, the realization sinks in. Marcus didn't just steal my work. He actively silenced me to protect his image.
They offer me a consulting contract to fix the vendor crisis. It's temporary, they say.
Just until we stabilize. I consider it. The money's good. The vindication would feel sweet.
But then I think about walking back into that office, sitting in meetings with Marcus, pretending everything's fine.
I'll consult remotely, I say.
But I want full authority over the recovery process. No interference from Marcus.
They agree immediately. Too immediately.
That's when I realize they've already decided his fate.
They just need me to save the company first.
Over the next 2 weeks, I rebuild what Marcus destroyed. I negotiate with the vendor, providing the documentation they needed all along. I train Rachel properly, walking her through every system I built.
Slowly, the crisis stabilizes.
The vendor agrees to revise terms. The board breathes easier. And through it all, Marcus is conspicuously absent. Sarah tells me he's been reassigned.
I know what that means.
The board calls another meeting.
This time, it's just me and them.
We want to offer you a permanent position, they say. Chief Operations Officer.
I blink.
What about Marcus?
They hesitate. Then, Marcus is no longer with the company.
We terminated his contract this morning.
The words hang in the air.
I should feel triumphant.
Instead, I just feel tired.
Why me? I ask. Because we made a mistake, one of them admits. We believed the wrong person. We rewarded the loudest voice instead of the most competent one. That's on us. Another adds, you didn't just save the company. You showed us what real leadership looks like. Quiet. Competent. Honest. They slide a contract across the table. The title stares back at me, Chief Operations Officer. My name. My role. Finally. We understand if you don't want to come back, they say. But we hope you'll consider it. I stare at the contract, my mind racing. This is everything I worked for. Everything Marcus stole. Now it's mine. I don't sign immediately. I take the contract home. I read every clause. I think about what it means to go back. To sit in those same conference rooms. To work with people who watched me get fired and said nothing. But I also think about Sarah, Rachel, and the others who had no power to stop what happened. I think about the systems I built, the work I'm genuinely proud of. And I realize something. I don't want revenge. I never did. I just wanted to be seen, valued, respected. 3 days later, I sign the contract. When I walk into the office on my first official day as COO, the energy is different. People greet me warmly, respectfully. Sarah hugs me in the hallway. Rachel thanks me for the training. Even the board members nod with something that looks like admiration. And when I sit at the conference table, not at the side, but at the head, I realize something profound. This isn't about Marcus. It never was. It's about me. My work. My worth. And no one can take that away again. I don't hear from Marcus for weeks. Then, one evening, I get an email. The subject line is blank. The message is short. I'm sorry. I stare at it for a long time. Part of me wants to delete it. Part of me wants to respond with everything I've been holding in. But mostly, I just feel nothing. His apology doesn't change what happened. It doesn't undo the months of gaslighting, the public humiliation, the stolen credit. It's just words. I close the email without responding. Not out of cruelty, but because I've moved on. He's no longer part of my story. Later, Sarah tells me Marcus took a position at a smaller company. Heard he's doing okay, she says carefully. I nod. I don't wish him ill. I don't wish him anything. He's just another person now. Someone I used to work with. Someone who taught me an important lesson. Never let anyone make you invisible. Your work speaks for itself. You just have to be patient enough to let it. The company grows. Under my leadership, we expand into new markets, streamline operations, and build stronger vendor relationships. The board publicly acknowledges my contributions, not Marcus's, mine. My name is on the reports. My strategies are in the presentations. There's no ambiguity anymore. One day, I'm invited to speak at an industry conference. The topic, building systems that last. As I stand on stage, looking out at hundreds of faces, I think about the journey that got me here. The quiet years of building. The frustration of being overlooked. The moment I was fired in front of everyone. And the slow, steady climb back to where I belonged. When I finish speaking, the applause is thunderous. People approach me afterward with questions, with admiration. One woman says, "Thank you for sharing that. I needed to hear it." I smile. Because I realize this story isn't just mine. It's for everyone who's been dismissed, overlooked, or underestimated. We're all building something. And if we're patient, the truth always finds a way. A year later, I'm sitting in my office when Sarah knocks on the door. "Someone's here to see you," she says, looking uncomfortable. I glance up. Who? Marcus. My stomach drops. I haven't seen him since the day he fired me. "Send him in," I say quietly. He walks in looking smaller than I remember. His suit is slightly wrinkled. His confidence is gone. "Maya," he says, standing awkwardly by the door. "I know I don't deserve your time. But I needed to say this in person. I'm sorry. For everything." I gesture to the chair across from me. He sits. "I was threatened by you," he admits. "You were smarter, more capable. I thought if I took credit for your work, I'd finally be good enough. But I was wrong. And I destroyed my career because of it." I listen without interrupting. When he finishes, I say, "I appreciate the apology. But it doesn't change anything." He nods. "I know. I just needed you to hear it." He stands, extends his hand. I shake it. And then he leaves. I never see him again. Today, I sit at the head of the same conference table where I was fired.
Same room. Same chairs. Same expensive view of the city skyline. Different seat.
The quarterly review meeting is about to start, and I feel calm, centered. The board members file in, respectful and attentive, greeting me with genuine warmth. Rachel presents a new vendor strategy, one we developed together over weeks of collaboration. Sarah shares data analysis that will shape our next quarter, her confidence growing every day. When it's my turn to speak, no one interrupts.
No one talks over me. No one dismisses my ideas or rephrases them as their own. They listen.
They ask thoughtful questions. They respect my expertise, my experience, my leadership. After the meeting, I walk to the window and look out at the city.
I think about the woman who was escorted out of this building a year ago.
The one who sat in her car, shaking and uncertain, wondering if she'd made a terrible mistake staying silent for so long.
She had no idea what was coming. But she trusted herself. She documented her work meticulously. She told the truth when it mattered.
And in the end, that was enough. Marcus tried to prove I was replaceable, that I was just support, not strategic. The company proved I was inevitable, that I was the foundation everything else was built on. And now, I'm exactly where I belong.
Leading. Creating. Building. Without apology. Without doubt. Finally visible.